London did not begin with a grand plan. It started as an accident of geography and military convenience. Around the year 43 AD, the Roman legions arrived on the shores of Britain. They needed a place to cross the wide River Thames, a strategic point to control their new province. They built a simple wooden bridge where the water was deep enough for ships, but the banks were firm enough for a settlement. This crossing point was the genesis of everything that followed. The Romans called their new town Londinium. It was a practical place laid out in a grid pattern, a small piece of Rome transplanted onto damp British soil. It was not a capital at first, but its location was too good to ignore. Soon, Londinium began to flourish. It became a bustling port, a hub of commerce connecting Britain to the rest of the Roman Empire. Roads radiated out from the city like spokes on a wheel, carrying soldiers, goods and ideas across the island. Merchants from Gaul, Spain and even further afield set up shops selling wine, pottery and olive oil in its busy forum. The city grew rapidly, a testament to its economic importance. A basilica, the largest north of the Alps, was constructed, serving as a town hall and law court. This was not merely an outpost, it was a thriving urban centre, demonstrating Roman power and organisational skill to the native Britons. This prosperity, however, was not without its perils. In 60 AD, the Iceni queen Boudicca led a furious rebellion against Roman rule. She saw Londinium as a symbol of foreign oppression, and her army descended upon the undefended city. The settlement was burned to the ground, its inhabitants massacred in a brutal display of resistance. Archaeologists today can still find a distinct red layer of burnt earth beneath the modern city, a silent scar from this violent episode. But the Romans were not so easily deterred. They understood the strategic value of the location and returned to rebuild. This time, they would make it stronger and more resilient than before. Following the Boudiccan revolt, the Romans erected a formidable defensive wall around their rebuilt city. This structure, known as the London Wall, was a statement of permanence. It enclosed an area of about 1 square mile, defining the physical limits of London for over 1,000 years. Parts of this ancient wall can still be seen today, a tangible link to the city's earliest days. Within these protective barriers, Londinium continued to grow, equipped with an amphitheatre for entertainment and temples for worship. It became the capital of Roman Britain, a sophisticated and secure city that laid the foundational stones for the metropolis we know today. When the Roman Empire crumbled in the 5th century, Londinium was largely abandoned. The great stone buildings fell into ruin and the once bustling streets became quiet. For a time, Anglo-Saxons preferred to live outside the old Roman walls, creating their own settlement called Lundenwic to the west. But the strategic importance of the original site could not be denied forever. Viking raids forced the population back within the safety of the Roman walls, and by the time of Alfred the Great, the city was reoccupied and revitalized. It once again became a center of trade and governance, its wharves along the Thames alive with the comings and goings of ships carrying wool and other English goods. During the Middle Ages, London's importance grew immensely. After the Norman conquest in 1066, William the Conqueror recognized the city's power. He built the formidable White Tower, the central keep of what would become the Tower of London, to intimidate and control the populace. This was a clear message. London was now under firm royal authority. The city also became the undisputed centre of English government and law, with the establishment of Westminster as the seat of the royal court and Parliament just upriver. This dual identity, the City of London for commerce and the City of Westminster for politics, created a dynamic tension that has defined the capital ever since. The Tudor period, beginning in the late 15th century, marked another era of significant transformation. London's population swelled and its influence expanded globally as England began its age of exploration. The city was a crowded, energetic and often chaotic place. Wooden houses with overhanging upper stories lined the narrow, winding streets. The old London Bridge was an icon of the age, crammed with shops and houses, a bustling thoroughfare in its own right. It was in this London that William Shakespeare's plays were first performed at theatres like the Globe, capturing the vibrant spirit of the era and cementing the city's status as a cultural powerhouse. This growth was not without its challenges. The city was frequently visited by disease and the dissolution of the monasteries under Henry VIII fundamentally changed the urban landscape, transferring vast amounts of land and wealth into new hands. Yet London's momentum was unstoppable. It was the engine of the nation's economy, its port a gateway to the newly discovered world. The establishment of the Royal Exchange in 1565 provided a dedicated place for merchants to strike deals, further professionalizing the city's commercial life. London was no longer just an English city, it was becoming a player on the world stage. The 17th century brought two devastating calamities that would forever alter London's destiny. The first was the Great Plague of 1665, a terrifying outbreak of bubonic plague that claimed the lives of an estimated 100,000 people, roughly a quarter of the city's population. The streets fell silent as people fled or locked themselves in their homes, the grim sound of the death cart a constant reminder of the invisible enemy. This tragedy exposed the vulnerabilities of the overcrowded and unsanitary medieval city, a place where disease could spread with horrifying speed. London was a city gripped by fear, its social fabric stretched to the breaking point by the scale of the loss. Just 1 year later, in September 1666, a second disaster struck. A small fire that started in a baker's shop on Pudding Lane was fanned by strong winds and quickly spiraled into an uncontrollable inferno. The Great Fire of London raged for 4 days, consuming everything in its path. It destroyed more than 13,000 houses, 87 parish churches, St. Paul's Cathedral, and most of the buildings of the City of London. The dense, timber-framed buildings that had defined the medieval city acted as fuel for the flames. Miraculously, the death toll was low, but the physical destruction was almost total. The old London was gone, reduced to a field of smouldering ruins. From these ashes, however, a new London began to rise. The rebuilding effort was a monumental undertaking. Visionary architect Sir Christopher Wren was tasked with redesigning many of the city's churches, culminating in his masterpiece, the new St. Paul's Cathedral. Its magnificent dome became a new symbol of London's resilience and hope. New building regulations mandated the use of brick and stone instead of wood, and streets were made wider to prevent a similar catastrophe from ever happening again. Though grand plans for a complete redesign of the city were rejected, London was reborn, more orderly, more robust and better prepared for the future. This rebuilt city became the foundation for the explosion of growth during the Victorian era. The Industrial Revolution turned London into the largest and most powerful city in the world, the heart of a vast British Empire. Its population surged as people from across Britain and the world flocked to it for work. The Victorians were master builders and engineers, constructing a revolutionary underground railway, a comprehensive sewer system designed by Joseph Bazalgette, and iconic structures like the Tower Bridge. This was a city of stark contrasts, of immense wealth and grinding poverty, of grand public buildings and sprawling slums, but its energy and influence were undeniable. The 20th century tested London's resilience once more. During the Second World War, the city endured the Blitz, a sustained bombing campaign by the German Luftwaffe between 1940 and 1941. Night after night, bombs rained down, causing widespread destruction and loss of life. Entire neighbourhoods were flattened, and historic landmarks, including parts of the Houses of Parliament and the British Museum, were damaged. The spirit of Londoners, however, did not break. People sought shelter in underground stations and carried on with their lives with remarkable fortitude. The Blitz left deep physical and psychological scars, but it also forged a powerful sense of shared identity and determination to rebuild. Post-war London was a city in need of healing and reinvention. The 1948 Olympic Games, held amidst the austerity of the recovery period, were a symbol of a new beginning. The 1951 Festival of Britain on the South Bank showcased modern design and a forward-looking vision for the nation. The subsequent decade saw the end of the British Empire, which profoundly changed London's role in the world. It began a transformation from an imperial capital to a global financial centre. The 1980s saw the Big Bang deregulation of the financial markets, which unleashed a new era of economic dynamism, particularly in the City of London and the newly developed Canary Wharf. This period also witnessed the emergence of London as one of the world's most culturally diverse and cosmopolitan cities. People from all corners of the globe, particularly from former Commonwealth countries, migrated to London, bringing with them their cultures, cuisines, and traditions. This influx created the vibrant, multicultural mosaic that defines the city today. Neighbourhoods like Brixton, Southall, and Brick Lane became famous for their rich cultural heritage, contributing to London's reputation as a place where the world meets. This diversity became one of the city's greatest strengths, fueling its creativity and dynamism. Today, on this day in 2025, London stands as a true global metropolis, a city that has continually adapted and rebuilt itself over 2 millennia. Its skyline is a conversation between the old and the new, where Wren's historic church spires stand alongside gleaming glass skyscrapers like the Shard. It faces modern challenges, from housing affordability to managing its complex transport network, yet it remains a leading centre for finance, technology, education and the arts. The journey from a small Roman bridgehead to a sprawling, diverse city of millions is an epic tale of survival, innovation and perpetual change. London's history is not just in its past, it is a living story, written every day in its bustling streets.